the truth is, there's a lot of ways that a person can become prosperous. We've been talking about Joseph, and we've come to that part of the story of Joseph where he's been taken down to Egypt. He's now in bondage. He's been brought to the house of a man by the name of Potiphar. And it says that Potiphar was a captain of the guard of Pharaoh. He was pretty high up, and obviously this man was a man of wealth and influence. And exactly how it came to pass that he purchased Joseph, we're not exactly sure whether this is something that he had done before or how did this happen. But what we do know is that some way, somehow, he became the attention of this man by the name of Potiphar. Potiphar began to take note of some things, so that he was honest, he was trustworthy, he was responsible, and I'm going to add something in here. He didn't gripe and groan. You see, I have a story, and perhaps I've told this story on the radio before, but it has to do with when I was in the Navy, stationed aboard the USS Lexington. When you first go in as a raw recruit, they put you in the deep sink, or they put you on the mess decks, and I ended up working in the deep sink. And the deep sink was in the kitchen, and my responsibility was to wash all the pots and pans that the cooks dirtied up. And those cooks, they just love to aggravate. And if you didn't have a good attitude, they just go out of their way to dirty up those pots and pans. And I spent 10 days working in the deep sink, and I griped and groaned and moaned during the whole time. And then when my time was done, a friend of mine, he took over, and he was worse than I was. But the person who followed him, this young man just had a totally different attitude. He just rolled up his sleeves and began to sling pots and pans around and wash them and scrub them up and put them away. And the cooks took note of that good attitude. And you know what they did? They went out of their way not to dirty up so many pots and pans. And this young man, he turned that job that was so despicable, as this was determined by me and my friend and others who had been in the deep sink before, and he made it work for him. Just totally turned the whole thing around. And he put in his 10 days, and then he volunteered for another 10 days. And he said, well, man, this is the best job on the ship. He said, they can just put me right here for the rest of the time I'm on this ship. I learned something from that young man. I learned about attitude. I learned about how to make a circumstance that would seem horrible to work for me. How that I can make the best out of the circumstances. And I believe that's what Joseph did. He took a bad situation and he said, how can I make it work to the best advantage that I can? And through hard work, trustworthiness, a good positive attitude, Potiphar took notice and said, I'm just going to make you in charge of everything. To me, that's just quite amazing. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.